nobody wants a random teenager detailing their car, you
Yeah.
know. I was that guy who was on the corner of the street advertising, $20 full interior, exterior, everything. You have to mark 1,000 holes, drill 1,000 holes, thread 1,000 fiber optics through each hole. I've probably sunk at least $20,000 worth of labor and work into this thing
Yeah.
for $400. We just hit our first $30,000 month last month.
Great. Hmm.
I want to be as big as we can be.
Hmm.
So I am going to end up stepping on toes.
Hello, everyone. Today is the third episode of the Create, Build, Try podcast. And today I'm with Gray, who started an automotive detailing business while he was studying at Purdue. And honestly, I'll hand it off to you to talk a bit more about how you got started with gray market detailing and your journey of getting there.
Oh, thanks, Vish. It's great to be here. Yeah, I started with this my sophomore year at Purdue. I was originally here during the original years of COVID. So from like 2020 to 2021 is when this business was really starting. Um, I had just bought a new car, a little Mazda 3, and it was a used car, kind of beat up, looked like crap. And I learned how to detail that just through like YouTube Academy, buying consumer grade chemicals at AutoZone and O'Reilly's. Um, I got it looking pretty good, and a lot of my friends were wondering if I could do that for their vehicle too. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. I started posting about it on my social media and on a few other platforms. I had people reaching out asking if I could do that at a good price. Uh, and from there, it just took off. It originally stemmed because with my old car, I originally had a Camry. I took that to get detailed one time, and I watched them just wipe it down with these wet rags. They weren't really doing anything, no special chemicals, and then they charged me $100. And it's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I saw a problem with the industry and decided I'd fix it.
Well, not many people will see a problem that they have in college and just go and, all right, okay, I'm starting a business with it. Was there any other, I guess, incentive or drive that made you just jump into, okay, now I'm just gonna start this?
Honestly, the money. I I was relatively poor throughout my youth, and then moving into college, even less money because there's less time to work, less time to go make money.
Mhm.
So it was really nice to be able to have a flexible schedule. I wasn't under somebody else as like a manager or boss. And I just really enjoyed the flexibility, and I knew that it was something that could be scalable for the future, and I could either continue to just do it through college, or when college was over, I could just be done, go on to my major. So it was really just the perfect choice for me.
I see. And I'm curious when you were initially starting this out, just doing some of your detailing some of your friends' cars and things like that. What was that like being a student at the same time while also committing to this as a almost like a part-time or even full-time job?
Well, like I said, it was during COVID, so everything was online. I didn't really have any in-person classes, so it wasn't a huge strain on the schedule.
Hmm.
Um, it was a little difficult trying to have like a good reputation because nobody wants a random teenager detailing their car, you
Yeah.
know. If you want that, you'll go to somewhere like Premier or one of these other local corporate shops. But yeah, I had everything in the back of my Mazda. I didn't have like a shop or anything when I was first starting, so I
Hmm.
would literally have people come to my apartment. We would
Yeah.
drive their car over to West Side Wash, one of our local self-service car washes, and they would sit there and watch me detail their car in one of those self-service bays for like 2 hours. And it was awkward, it was janky.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to work, but everybody was happy with the results and the price was right. And from there, it just sort of took off until I got a call from one of my now decent friends, Jazzy, who owns some of the local shops around here, had just started a small car dealership
Uh,
over off Main Street. They didn't have enough staffing or really income to have somebody full-time detailing,
yeah.
so they needed contract work. They reached out to me and told me that I could detail on their lot for my own personal clients if I did theirs at a high enough discount.
Hmm.
And that was when things really picked up and started.
And before I continue, I feel like a lot of the people watching probably don't have an understanding of what the detailing industry actually looks like. So if you could explain what does automotive detailing look like, and then also what gray market detailing, some of the services that they do.
Oh yeah. So, it starts with your basic detail, probably the videos that you watch on social media with people taking boar's hair brushes, a really foamy all-surface cleaner, spraying it on the hard surfaces, just getting things cleaned out, vacuuming, carpet and seat shampooing, the stuff you would typically think of when you're going to pay at least maybe a couple $100s to get your car professionally cleaned and back to that sort of factory condition. So that's what our main bread and butter is. That's what we're doing on a daily basis,
Hmm.
as well as exterior detailing. But now we've moved into more higher end services. So stuff like PPF, vinyl wrapping, window tint. Right now, our biggest seller is ceramic coatings. So that's for either the interior or the exterior of your vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's a preventative coating that helps to keep things significantly cleaner, adds a level of gloss, and just overall adds resale value and overall value to the vehicle.
Okay, that makes sense. And you know, one thing I've noticed seeing your page and some of the cars that I also see on like Nishant's page and stuff,
Yeah.
like it's typically nice cars that are coming into the shop and or not always, but like you do get some really nice cars coming in.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh, yeah.
I mean, that's sort of one of the biggest misconceptions with the industry
Uh-huh.
is everybody posts those nice cars that come in.
Okay.
The super cars like Nishant's. I've done two of his cars in the past.
Yeah.
Um, Nice luxury vehicles, Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces. That's what you think of. That's
Hmm.
what you see online. But I'd say a majority of our vehicles are just daily driver economy vehicles.
Wow, okay.
We do anywhere from 90 to 150 vehicles per month, and I'd say over 90% of those are going to be just your average like Camrys or Mazda 3s, like what I started out in.
Yeah. I mean, I think either way, whether it's a supercar or if it's your Honda CRV, I think people are definitely apprehensive to go and give their vehicle to a teenager or a young 20-year-old and say, "Hey, detail my car." How were you able to get past that brand image of just being a young guy that's starting this business? And what were some of the steps you took to really gain the trust of your customers?
Yeah, I mean, reputation is kind of everything in this business. And like I said, when I started out, I didn't really have any. So I was that guy who was on the corner of the street advertising, $20 full interior, exterior, everything, that
Yeah.
just trying to get my name out there and have people give me a try. Because when you don't have a reputation, the value has to be in your price.
Yeah.
And then once you build up that reputation, you've done enough cars, you have enough pictures, photos, reviews, and you start to get people who are willing to pay a little bit more or even just willing to give you a chance, then you can move your value proposition to something like the quality of your work, which
Yeah.
is what it should be, or maybe added features or gimmicks that other detailing shops don't have. So when I was first starting over on Main Street, my average price for a detail was anywhere from like $30 to about 100 on the top end for a full service.
Mhm.
And now our prices are, we do up to $3,000 jobs on vehicles, or even when we do aircrafts or boats, it can be upwards of 10,000. So it's like you have to have a value proposition that grows as you grow with your reputation.
That makes sense. And what were other ways other than the because I think that's a really good point of like if you don't truly or if you're just starting out in business and there's no inherent value in the service you're providing because no one has any proof, then there has to be some proof in the price.
Yeah.
But were there other ways that you were able to start to build some value even before people kind of knew your name?
Yeah, I'd say one of the big ones is we've always focused on doing detailing what I would consider the proper way,
Yeah.
using the right chemicals that aren't going to damage any part of your interior or exterior. Added things at the end to recondition plastics or leathers that might get dried out.
Mhm.
Um, I don't like to crap on other businesses,
Yeah.
but some of the other local large corporate shops, Premier, they use diluted degreaser for virtually 90% of the stuff that they do.
Okay.
And that will dry out your clear coat, it'll dry out plastics, it'll damage your vehicle over
Mhm.
time. And so the more you go to them, like after 3 or 4 times that you've seen them, you come back and your plastics are getting that white dried out film over them, and they try to sell you on restoration. And it's like,
Ah,
that's not how this is supposed to work. We use interior cleaners that are pH neutral. They don't dry anything out. They
yeah.
have protectants and conditioners in them so that things don't get dried out. Um, just several different things like that where we're doing things the right way and we can prove that the other businesses aren't. That was a massive value proposition. And that's why a majority of our returning clients come back to us when they've tried other people.
And is that like a common trend within the automotive industry as a whole, or
Definitely in the detailing industry.
okay,
When
okay,
I first started out, I was buying consumer grade products at AutoZone and O'Reilly's, and they have different products for every different thing that you have in your vehicle.
yeah,
They have a leather cleaner, plastic cleaner, glass cleaner. And when you don't know what you're doing, you
hmm,
think you need all those. And so that's what I was doing at first. I had a bottle or a bucket of like 50 different chemicals, and I was swapping between them. It was costly, it was inefficient. Um, and now we've moved more towards using singular all-purpose cleaners that are pH neutral or maybe just slightly alkaline. We buy them in bulk, they're dilutable. I'd say my arsenal is now maybe 10 or 11 chemicals at most.
yeah,
But the issue is when you try to go corporate, which is kind of our next stage of moving up, they tend to cut corners. They buy the
hmm,
cheaper stuff, the degreasers. They say, oh, well, I guess if we dilute it enough, it should be fine. And
yeah.
that's not the case. So I think it's a large problem in the entire industry that as you try to reduce cost and make things more, uh, let's just say easier for your uh, customers, clients, and even your workers,
Yeah.
um, you cut corners and things get worse.
No,
And
I think that's a really good point, and this kind of goes into another question I wanted to ask with values, because I think if you, I don't know if you're familiar with Steve's Jobs story of how he started Apple, but when he started it, he was like, okay, I want us to be very focused on innovation and building and having something new that is clean and simple in terms of design. And that's why people love the iPhone. It's so easy to use. But then as they became more corporate and bigger, and more employees were starting to come in, and everybody wasn't a player, like the best employee. Their values started to dwindle. So, what are some of the values that you really want to instill within gray market detailing? And how do you plan on keeping those when you start to go bigger and you start to open more shops?
yeah, one of our main largest values is satisfaction guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not happy with your vehicle for any reason, bring it back and we'll redo it or fix it, or I will issue you a full or partial refund. And
Okay.
I've done that probably even 2 times this week already,
Yeah.
where people have said, "Hey, I found a speck of dust on my dashboard." And
Uh,
I was like, "Bring it back, we'll take care of it." One person said, "Oh, I live out of state, couldn't come back." I refunded her the full amount. I don't want anybody to be unhappy with their service.
wow.
So that's like our number one thing. And then our second thing would probably just have to be convenience. I offer mobile detailing where we come to you.
Hmm.
If you live in an apartment or someplace where you're not allowed to do that for liability reasons, we offer pickup and drop off where I'll come pick the vehicle up from you and then bring it back to the shop. We'll drop it back off to you when it's done. So that level of convenience draws in a lot of customers. That's another one of our value propositions.
Hmm.
Um, and then I'd say just consistency. I've seen people who go to other detail shops. Not gonna cough on my arm again, but we all know who. Um, you can go one time and it's going to be great, especially if it's your first time because they
Yeah.
want you to be a returning client. And then the second time you go in, it's not the same. It doesn't look great, doesn't feel as clean,
Hmm.
and you think, oh, well, maybe I've just gotten used to it. No, they did better the first time to get you in the door, and
Then
that's the consistent quality that you're going to see from now on.
I
So,
see.
yeah, it's convenience, consistent quality, and satisfaction. Those are the three main things.
Okay. And like with that topic of be making sure that you're able to provide the customer with convenience. I just think back to when you said you started this as a student and like you probably had to, at least in my mind, I'm just playing with my imagination. You're like, you probably really had to hustle to not only be like, okay, I'm going to pick your car up, I'm going to drop it off, and then I have class at 3:30 and then I have to get it
Yeah,
done. And then all of these things. So how was that for you in your like first 2 years or 3 years of starting out?
yeah. A lot of details that I did, I was doing overnight details. So
Oh,
people would drop off. I'd have like 3 or 4 people drop off vehicles around 6 or 7 p.m.
yeah.
And then we would do them overnight, me and one of my helpers that I would hire, or even just one of my friends that I'd pay
Yeah.
under the table. Um, and we would do them overnight. We'd have them all done by 6 a.m. the next morning, and then I'd be on my way to a calc lecture or wherever I needed to be. Um, we really didn't do a lot of stuff during the day at
So what
that
did
time.
sleep look like?
Non-existent. I don't really sleep even still today. I'm lucky to get anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a night, with most nights being probably closer to 0 or 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like that with that topic of consistency and consistent work, I definitely seems like you're embodying that. But one thing that I'm curious about, I think when people go through that journey of like just really working very hard towards something for an extended period of time, there's a lot of things that they learn about the world and themselves, at least from my experience. And I'm curious, what were some of those things that you learned very quickly as a young entrepreneur that was basically just doing school full time and doing this job full time?
I'd say I definitely learned about what I value in my own life
Hmm.
more. Making money is fantastic, and being able to work all the time is great. I'm a workaholic,
Yeah.
but I learned very quickly that some of my relationships suffered because I didn't have the time to really nurture them. Um, I learned quickly that I want to be able to preserve at least a little bit of time for physical fitness and health.
Hmm.
I went through like a year and a half period where I was working so much that I couldn't get to the gym.
Yeah.
So I gained a considerable amount of weight.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, nope, I have to set aside time for that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would say definitely learned about discipline. As any entrepreneur will tell you, it takes a lot of discipline to get up every day, do what you need to do, plan ahead, and just stick with it. And there were times where I saw my consistency and my discipline slipping, and I would have a bad month. It wouldn't make as much. Clients would be not as happy as they usually were. For the short while that I had employees, they would say that I wasn't doing enough for them to make their work experience enjoyable or tolerable. So it's taken a lot of self-growth and reflection to look back and work on those areas, figure out what's important both for me and for the business. Yeah.
And was there anything during your time in college that influenced your growth as an entrepreneur? Like aside from the work that you were doing, but people that you met, or just like some of the classes or things that you learned that changed how you view entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but a sociology class really
Okay,
opened my eyes to a lot of
interesting.
stuff about proper marketing, proper, customer relations and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Um, but I learned a lot about needing to stop looking at what I would want from a business or what I would want from a detail because I'm a detailer. I already know all the stuff. I need to look at everything with fresh eyes. Somebody who's never had a car detailed before
Hmm.
doesn't know what to expect, doesn't know what the pricing should look like. That's been really helpful for marketing as well because I scroll and I see TikToks and Instagram reels about, oh, things about the detailing business. Like, here's what we do in our business, here's how we do it. And that's not the kind of content that most clients want to see. That's what other detailers want to see.
Yeah.
And I was trying so hard to make that kind of content for so long that it looked like we were a B2B business and not a business to consumer
Yeah.
business. So I'd say that sociology class really opened me up. Um, I've met several great people that have opened the door to opportunities for me, whether it's people like Nishant, who kind of introduced me to the Fisher's car scene and the whole Indianapolis area. People like Jazzy, who gave me that chance with that first lot that we were working on.
Hmm.
And then I've met several people who just have great connections that have gotten me into some large pools of people that have enough income to really get their car detailed often.
Yeah.
We've detailed at a few frat houses. We've done a few events at Purdue. We did
Okay.
the Boilermaker special because I met
Oh,
the head of the Reamer Club. Like,
damn.
yeah, everything has kind of stemmed from opportunities that I gained by being here, both in the city and at Purdue.
Okay, I see. I actually really resonate with what you said about what you learned from your sociology class. Because I think one thing that I've realized from making content is like, while there are things that I find really cool with some of the content that I make, no one really gives a shit.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
like no one else will really care, and you have to see, okay, whatever piece of content I'm making, whether it's long form or short form, what will cater to my ideal viewer. And I think thinking about it, and that can also still be something that I find very like enjoyable to make and enjoyable to like view myself, but it has to be from that perspective of the ideal customer.
Right.
And I think like even just making content from that perspective just has given me like a different view on like, business entirely.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm sure it's changed the way that you even detail cars.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a little different for you and I as well because you're in the business of making content, right?
Yeah.
You just want to get as many views and as much interaction as possible.
Yeah.
We're in the business of attracting people to our shop to get our services.
Yeah.
So it's like the stuff that performs well on Instagram or TikTok, where it's, people with the brush making everything all foamy, that gets a ton of views. People like watching that late at night. It's enjoyable, but that doesn't bring people into the shop. You have to
Uh,
be expressing like, here's what we do differently from other detailers. Here's how we add value to your vehicle.
mhm.
Here's what your vehicle might need that you don't know about. And sometimes that's exactly what's going to bring people in. Other times that's exactly what's going to send people away. They say, "Oh, I don't need all that. That's above my pay grade. I'll just go to the car wash." Um, so there's a big difference there. And then there's also a big difference with how you want to market yourself. We can do paid ads in our local area.
Mhm.
You're trying to market everywhere
Yeah.
because I'm imagining you're going for ad revenue, right?
Yeah. I mean, in general, just like I would say my goal with content is to like, well, my goal with this podcast is to share the stories of other founders so that people who also want to go and start their own thing have some inspiration of seeing how it's not actually that hard. And that span of people can be anywhere. So, yeah, it's true. Like, it's not just someone in one specific area.
Right. Yeah. And as we're trying to get more into monetization for some of our content, like we're looking at that as a second revenue stream.
Yeah.
It's kind of on the back burner for us to make that kind of content that's going to appeal to a wide audience just for the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
But again, I see other detailers who are doing that all the time. A majority of their money is made off content and revenue.
I
And
see.
it's so hard for me to sit here and not try to just copy that or at least take inspiration from it.
Actually, a question on that. We talked about values before and how, okay, I will like make it as convenient as for the customer to come to my shop, and whether it's picking up their car, whether it's refunding them because they didn't like some small thing, whatever it is, um, that's the value that you want instilled in the business. So, have you ever found that the values that you really care about have sometimes like hurt the growth of the business or like slowed you down, but because you really value that specific thing, whether it's convenience or consistency, you're still going to do it anyway?
Yeah, and I think every detailer can relate to this when they were first starting out.
Yeah.
You want the car to look perfect,
Yeah.
even if the client doesn't have the budget or desire for that.
Yeah.
So I remember, we have different tiers for our interior detailing. Our lowest tier one is just a vacuum and a wipe down. It's
Hmm.
what you would expect to get maybe at a car wash if you were paying double the price. And I remember somebody brought me a vehicle that was just trashed.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I was saying, set her on fire, claim insurance. That's a better option. And I sat there for probably 6 hours and I got it looking spotless.
Mhm.
But then they came back and they're like, "Oh yeah, this was your $50 interior, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, I guess I just made less than $10 an hour and probably didn't even break even after the cost of chemicals and electricity."
Oh my
And
God.
my first 5 or 6 months were like that, where every single vehicle, no matter what package they chose, I was getting it perfect
Yeah.
because that's what detailing was in my mind. And that's what detailing still is to most of our clients.
Yeah.
They want it to look perfect. So we really had to set the expectations when they came in. We now have a pre-service inspection where we say, hey, this is what that package would take care of. This is what it wouldn't. If you want it perfect, we would recommend this package. And I wasted so much time, so much energy, and it really did stifle the growth of the business
Hmm.
not having that step in there. and just going to perfection every time.
And again, like I guess talking a bit more about that early part of your journey, was that the hardest thing that you dealt with in those first like 1 or 2 years, or were there other things that like really had you confused and took you a while to just like understand like, okay, this is how this business works?
Yeah, there were so many things. As with any business or startup,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things where if you don't have a business background, you don't know what you need to do to get a business completely off the ground.
Yeah.
Our biggest one was marketing.
Uh-huh.
We had been in business for about a year and 7 months, and every week or so, I'd have somebody calling me from a marketing agency saying, "Hey, we'll get you up to 10 clients a week. Only pay us $1,000 a month." And we were only making 2,000 a month. So I
Mhm.
was like, that's not going to work. I don't have that kind of capital.
Yeah.
And then I had been talking to some of my other friends who had some entrepreneurship and had their own small businesses, and they were all like, "Oh, here's how to run really cheap but cost-effective ads. Here's how to, put yourself into this community.
Mhm.
Here's how to build a network there." Um, and it does take money. You have to spend money to make money. That's the old adage.
Yeah.
And I was really afraid for those first pretty much 2 years to spend even a cent on marketing
Yeah.
because I had tried it once or twice with like an Instagram reel. We had boosted it, didn't bring in anything. And I was like, oh, that's it. Marketing doesn't work. It's all a lie. It's a scam. Never doing it.
Yeah.
And then we started a Google ad campaign where I don't know if you've ever used Google Ads,
I
but
have not.
you only pay if somebody actually clicks on the ad. They always show it, but it's only if somebody actually clicks on it, gets to your website that you pay. So
Interesting.
I had a budget of like $200 that I had been saving up. I was like, here goes nothing.
Uh-huh.
Put it on the Google Ads. The next month we hit $6,000 up from the
Wow.
2,000 that we were at. And I was like, oh, fantastic. I put a little bit of more money into it. We were up to 10,000 and we were at a point where I couldn't keep up with the work. So
Damn.
yeah, and it was just instantaneous like that. And I kick myself every day that I didn't do that sooner.
Mhm.
It's what I recommend to anybody who's starting a small local service-based business. By the way, if you're watching this and want to do that, I have a referral code. I'll put it in the description or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it really did. It changed everything. And I found that the more money I would put into that and the better advertising I would do, the more people would come. When for the longest time, I really thought that there just wasn't enough demand in the area.
Okay, I see. And with those like risks, just saying like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try putting a few $100s into this, and you're not really sure if it's gonna work out, but you try it anyway. What were some other risks that you took in that early part of your business that really just scared you, but you just did it anyway? Because like I think it is those risks that are required for growth, but sometimes you don't always realize that early on.
Yeah, I would say pretty much any new service that we've offered
Yeah.
has been a massive risk the first time.
Okay.
Like, my first time doing a ceramic coating, you
Hmm.
can watch all the videos you want, do everything. It's never going to mentally prepare you when they're saying, hey, if you do this wrong, you're going to have to sand it off the vehicle and it's going to cost several $1,000s of damage. So I tried it first on my own vehicle with like a really low grade ceramic.
Yeah.
Turned out okay, ruined my hood. And I was like,
Wow.
"Ugh." So my Mazda was driving around with horribly messed up hood, showing up to people's houses like that, and they're like, "You're gonna touch my car?" And I was like, "I promise I'm not doing that to it." Um, and eventually I got better at it. I tried the rest of my car, tried a few of my friends' cars, and we got it figured out. And now we're like one of the leading ceramic coating providers in the area. We're certified with a few different providers and companies to do them.
Yeah.
Um, but anytime that we offer a new service, like we recently started offering interior ambient lighting and starlight headliners.
Uh-huh.
The first two that we did were okay. They weren't the best. They didn't last super long. But once we really got a consistent way to do it, we figured out everything that we needed to do correctly. It worked out fantastically. And I've never been super risk adverse, so I'm
Mhm.
always happy to try out things like that on my own vehicle or even on like family and friends' vehicles. Because at the end of the day, if it gets messed up, I'll fix it later.
Yeah.
But there's other risks that we take that we can't always fix later, like with the ads. If
Yeah.
those didn't work, I would have just been completely out the money. Um, there's several other things in the business, like sometimes we try new chemicals And if you get one with the wrong pH or if you don't use it properly, you can damage things. Um, we've damaged one or two clients' cars. Even I'd say last month we had a Tesla come in that we did a headliner on,
Yeah.
and we accidentally broke part of the headliner harness,
Oh,
and we didn't
wow.
find
Okay.
out until like 3 or 4 weeks later when one of his headlights wasn't working.
Hmm.
And that's why we have business insurance. That's
Yeah.
why we do what we can. But we were with him through the whole process. He got everything fixed at the Tesla dealership. We paid for it, and then we didn't charge him for the work. But you have to be willing to take those risks, otherwise the business isn't going to grow.
And how has your relationship with risk changed from experiences like this? Like, what, I guess now I'm sure with, I remember we were talking on the phone. You said you recently opened up a larger shop, and then soon enough, that's going to be multiple shops, maybe across Indiana, maybe even across the nation.
Yeah.
And with taking these risks, what's been the mindset that you've been, I guess, following where it's like, okay, I know I'm going to be taking this jump, but because I've seen this, I know it'll be okay, or something along those lines that keeps you confident.
Yeah, I would say it's really just a network of people that I'm around.
Yeah,
I'm not from the area. I'm originally from Minnesota, so I don't have like family that I can really fall back on here.
yeah,
But in the beginning stages, a lot of my comfortability with taking risk came from my girlfriend, who's now my wife.
yeah.
If I had financial troubles or anything, she was always happy to take a little bit out of her savings and say,
Wow.
"Here, I'll fix the problem. Let's work on doing it better next time." Um, and even now, it's like we've got money in savings. I've got good relations with banks and a few other local business owners.
Mhm.
If something truly goes wrong, we take too big of a risk and it fails, I have people that I can fall back onto, and I have the business structured in a way where things can't really be messed up.
So those relationships are what really keep you confident as to like, even if this goes wrong, I have these people.
Yeah. And then even if that goes wrong, I have the business structured with a holding company and a different LLC and everything. So nothing can be taken from
Yeah.
us if things go truly wrong.
Okay. And you know, kind of on a different note, we've talked a lot about the early struggles that you dealt with being a college student starting this and those sorts of things. But how's the growth been? I mean, how has it, how did things start to pick up? Was that while you were in college? Was that as you graduated? What did the whole growth process look like?
Yeah, so that first month that I ran those Google ads,
Hmm.
we tripled our revenue
And
the
what
next
year
month.
of the business was that in?
That would have been late 2022 or maybe early 2023. Um,
Okay, so like 2, 3 years in.
Yeah, that was about 2.5 years in, and that was when things really picked up, and it was no longer a side hustle.
Yeah.
Like that was when I formed the LLC, and I was like, "Oh, this is my business now. Like
Okay.
this is probably what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life."
Yeah.
Um, and so we did that. We spent probably 5 or 6 months uh, posting off of that progress, and then winter came, and the business always slows down in the winter when you're a beginning detailer
Hmm.
because nobody wants their outside clean because it's just going to get dirty tomorrow.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody wants their inside done because it's just going to get salt on it.
Yeah.
So that sucked. We had like 3 months where we had maybe one or two details a week, whereas I had been
Wow.
doing like one or two a day.
Yeah.
Um, and after that, I was like, well, now I need to fix my marketing for the winter.
Uh-huh.
So the next winter came. Over that summer, we had our first 10K month.
Yeah.
Um, and I was very happy with that. We bought our mobile van. We moved into a house, and I started doing things out of my garage there
Yeah.
so that over the winter I could actually have an enclosed space to do things.
Yeah.
That was when I did Nishant's first car.
Uh-huh.
So that was when I had been introduced to him, and that kind of opened the door to more of that exotic car scene out in Fishers and Carmel.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we had that winter that was really slow, good summer, and then the next winter, I was like, oh, here comes that slowdown again.
Hmm.
What do I do? And that was the first time that I actually reached out to marketing agencies. I was like, hey, you've guaranteed me in the past that you could bring in clients during this time. I have the disposable income for it now. Do it. Um, and I have this great website designer. His name is Danny.
Mhm.
He handles all of my website and marketing and virtually all of that. So over the last winter, when we finally had our enclosed space,
Yeah.
the new website was bringing in traffic on its own. We didn't have to pay for ads.
Yeah.
We were advertising better services that are more suited for winter, like ceramic coatings or preventative things like carpet tape, interior modifications, because those are things that are not weather dependent. You know,
Okay.
if
Okay.
you buy a new car in the winter, you want to go get it ceramic coated right when you buy it. Um, so that was last winter, like the winter we're just coming out of. Um, and so going into this next winter, I'm confident that we're going to be able to maintain, if not continue growing through the winter.
Mhm.
We just hit our first $30,000 month last month.
Great. Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm in the process of buying and outfitting a second van, and we're
Yeah.
going to be moving to a larger location pretty soon here. And our next thing to work on is a little bit more marketing, but more so we're going to be trying to introduce some higher end services. So right now we do ceramic coatings. We're trying to get into doing PPF, or the cutting edge of technology right now is liquid PPF.
What is a PPF?
So PPF is like a thin layer of TPU plastic that goes over the exterior of the vehicle. It helps to prevent rock chips and scratches. It's kind of self-healing if you heat it up.
Mhm.
Um, but it's difficult to install, and the material itself is expensive. Liquid PPF is a liquid version of that goes on, so it doesn't look like your car is just wrapped in cling wrap.
Mhm.
It's nice and smooth. There's no defined edges, and it's easier to fix something if you do get a rock chip.
Yeah.
But there's really only two or three companies that offer that, like in terms of manufacturing right now, and you have to be certified for them. So we just went and got certified with one of them. We're
Mhm.
trying to get certified with the other two. And then those are going to be what we're mainly working towards. I want to have my employees doing interiors and exteriors while I focus on building our reputation for those kinds of services.
Okay, that makes sense. And one thing I noticed from that story, even though we were talking about like crazy amounts of growth here, um, there's still that element of like risk you have to take, where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, now the winter isn't going so well. I have money, but now I need to see if marketing agencies are what they say they are.
right.
And then after, okay, we winter's looking great because we added these new services that are now not weather dependent. Um, and so after you got to the point of, okay, it looks like we're making some money here. 10 grand a month is amazing. What were some of the risks that you took that may not have actually worked out in the way that you thought, and how did the adjustment process look like after being at like kind of a level place in your business?
Yeah, so again, with stuff like the headliners,
Yeah.
those were probably the biggest risk we've taken to date, because you are pulling something out of somebody's car.
And
There's a
yeah, how does that process work?
So you have to take off like the side pillars, a bunch of clips and everything,
Uh-huh.
take the entire ceiling fabric part out of the car.
Oh,
Um, and then we're clearing off all of the fabric that's already on it,
yeah.
getting off all the foam backing. We're laying down a layer of suede with contact adhesive, and then we're drilling. There's 5 steps. You have to mark 1,000 holes, drill 1,000 holes, thread 1,000 fiber optics through each hole,
What the?
glue them down, and then snip them off at the end.
This is at like the top of the car?
Yeah, kind of like what you'd see in a Rolls Royce.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And so it's a long process. And when I first started doing it, it would take me 3 or 4 days to do it.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
surprised.
and there's a lot of risk involved. It's very easy to break clips. It's very easy to damage something or to mess up the wiring when you put it back in.
Yeah.
So we've got the process down now, but those first few times, the risk was if we get this all done and it doesn't look good, or if we get this all done and it falls apart afterwards,
Uh-huh.
that entire car is basically
Done.
done for. You don't have a roof, you
You
don't
gotta
have a
put a
ceiling.
thousand holes in it? That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and the way that the risk didn't really work out there was the first few jobs we did incredibly cheap. We did like maybe $300 or $400 for
Mhm.
what we now charge a couple thousand for.
Wow. Okay.
And I told the people, because they were all returning clients. They were people who already trusted us, who I would consider myself friends with.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, sure, I'll trust you guys. We did it. They turned out fine, but not
Amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And after a few months, they started to have issues. So
Wow.
they
Okay.
would come back in. I would take the whole thing down, redo the whole thing, get it looking good again. There was one car that I've redone 4 times now. Um,
Wow.
and we finally did it with our real verified process now. So it's not going to get messed up again.
Hmm.
But the amount of time and effort and materials, I've probably sunk at least $20,000 worth of labor and work into this thing
Yeah.
for $400. But it's paid off because now we have that reputation. We do them where we do probably one or two a week at this point.
Wow.
So
Of the 1,000 hole thing?
yeah,
Holy shit.
so we've easily made the money back on the risk and what we lost in the investment. But
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I had to learn how to do it properly. Because if I had just said, okay, I'm not doing these ever again,
Yeah.
we'd be completely out those like roughly twenty
No,
thousand
I think
dollars.
that's like that honestly sounds scary to me.
It is, yeah,
Yeah, it's like okay, because I'm trying to think about it from my perspective. It's like me saying like if I'm going to take a video of someone and like I'm basically telling them they have to do like some crazy thing and like it could make something good for them, but like there's no guarantee and you have
right,
to do it like multiple times. Um and like just somehow pray that this person doesn't hate you.
right.
I'm just trying to think about it from my perspective, but yeah, 1,000 holes in a car is like
Well, and the 1,000 is like an average. We've done ones with 3,000 stars. We've done ones with
oh
as little as 600. Um, but yeah, I'll show you some pictures when we're done here. They're pretty cool.
yeah, that sounds crazy. And actually, this is making me um, curious about what scaling looks like because now you have to go and if you're starting like other shops, you have to now take the risk of putting 1,000 to 3,000 holes in some guy's car and tell your employee to do it.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely scary. I'd say that's one of the other most important things with scaling is getting processes down,
yeah.
having everything written in a process that's repeatable.
And what's that look like for you with all these different services that you now offer?
So I have a binder, like a massive 3-ring binder
Yeah.
that I've made a document on each service we offer.
Yeah.
It goes step by step. There's pictures, there's, use this chemical, but most importantly is teaching them why we use this chemical, why we do things this way.
Hmm.
Um, I teach our training more as like a school as opposed to an assembly line.
Yeah.
I'm not just trying to show them what to do. I'm trying to tell them how and why, so that in the future, I want them to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be the manager at this shop now. I can tell my employees what to do, why to do it, how to deduce these things, and have like my own amount of discretion with these.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we just have a massive binder. And then we also have our CRM, which is Urable. Um, that manages all of our appointments, customer relations, everything like that.
Yeah.
We have checklists in there. When a vehicle comes in, they have to do a full inspection. They have to run through each item on the checklist, make sure that they've done it, take pictures, show me that they've done it. We've got our butts covered when it comes to like allegations that we broke something.
Yeah.
And everything is just a repeatable process that's being constantly improved upon. And I'm very confident that I could train somebody in 2 weeks, hand them this binder, and they could run the entire business. Like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, the only thing that I don't let anybody touch is the marketing or the money,
Hmm.
um, because obviously I have to be in control of that stuff.
No, that makes
Um,
sense. And I think it's like those are things that can be, I guess, looked at once it's now like multiple
right.
stores and things like
Yeah,
that.
and it's relatively passive for me to manage those things as well.
Okay. And actually, one thing that I still don't have much insight on is like, when did you go from, okay, I'm going to drive to people's houses, work out of my apartment or whatever you were doing in college to like, okay, here's my first store. Okay, now we have a bigger store. What did that whole timeline look like?
Yeah, so for the first 2.5 years, it was just me either go into your house with the stuff in the back of my Mazda,
Hmm.
or people would bring their car to me at that shop over on Main Street. And when I
Okay.
say shop, it was literally just a lot. Like if it was raining, I was getting rained on. If it
How'd
was
you own that shop? Or like,
so my friend Jazzy owned
yeah.
a car dealership there. It was
Oh,
called Drive
that
Star
was the,
Auto.
okay, okay. That
Yeah.
was where you had your work done.
Yeah. And then February of last year, moved my wife and I into a house where we have a two-car garage. We were working out of there for about 7 months. And then we just moved in over on Olympia, with another detailer whose business is called Tilio.
Hmm.
He I don't want to talk badly about him at all. He's a great guy, but I think his business was just a little bit on the decline because he had been in a motorcycling accident. So he
Oh,
wasn't doing quite as much. And we were like, hey, we need a commercial shop space. So we went half on the rent with him,
hmm.
and we just operate out of the same building.
Okay.
And he's picking back up now. So it's getting to a point where we're probably going to have to go get our own at least two or three car shop and do
Hmm.
that. Um, but while I was still at the main lot over on Main Street, I had bought our detailing van. It
Yeah.
wasn't outfitted yet, but that was mainly what I took to people's houses from that point on.
Okay.
And now we have a full-blown detailing setup in there with a water tank, everything's on hose reels, we've got a generator, um,
Wow.
and that's made us significantly more efficient for mobile jobs as well,
Hmm.
because we just show up and get right to work. There's no setup, there's no breakdown. Um,
So Jazzy has really been a big part of your journey then.
Yeah, he definitely helped a lot. I would not be here without him, but I could say that about every person that's helped me in this business.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't be here without my wife, wouldn't be here without Jazzy. I probably wouldn't be nearly as far without Nishant or people like him,
Yeah.
or really my first repeat client. His name is Trevor.
Yeah.
He came to me when I was at that shop on Main Street with his, I think he had a Volkswagen Jetta
Yeah.
that was brand new. He wanted it washed and waxed, and he sat there and he watched me the whole time because he's really particular.
Hmm.
And he said basically everything that I'm telling you now, like they're using the right chemicals, he's meticulous, he's doing everything the right way. He wrote a fantastic review for us,
Hmm.
and that I think was what really kickstarted me to the point where I was like, hey, there's the reputation I've been looking for. That's what somebody thinks of me right out of the gate. Now it's time to run ads. I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I'm at without him having that kind of influence, because he's technically a local guide on Google Maps as well.
Hmm.
So that drew a lot of attention to our business. Uh, and he's been a repeat client ever since. He still comes to us every day, and now he has a RS6, and it's a pretty sweet car, and I've gotten to drive it before.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great friend of mine now. But clients like that are the real ones that I would not be here without.
That makes sense. And yeah, I think I'm even noticing this within my own life. There's a few people that when I started making content, just like would watch all of my videos of their entirety and like every single one. And
Yeah,
it was like it was even though it was maybe like 5 or 10 people when I was starting out, it was very motivating. And it was honestly just those 5 or 10 people that kept me pushing and kept me going to go and try and start more long form content and things like that. So I really resonate with that. Um, and I'm curious on the flip side, did you have people that were telling you like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on here? Like, whether it was sometimes I feel like even though family wants the best for you, sometimes they're the ones that are like, look, man, I don't know if this is going to work.
yeah. My entire family back in Minnesota,
Yeah.
my grandparents were hopeful at best.
Yeah.
They were, hey, buddy, hope that works out for you.
Uh-huh.
If it doesn't, come crash on our couch. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just quit Purdue and move back to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Anyways, uh, yeah, my family was supportive, hopeful, but I wouldn't say invested or real
Mm,
believers.
yeah.
Um, my wife's family, however, they have been since day one. Oh yeah, you own a business, we're gonna help. We're gonna, refer people. If you ever need work, we'll come help you work. Like we'll do whatever it takes to help you out. and they're still here and they're doing fantastic. In fact, my wife's dad comes and helps me do headliners every Saturday now.
Wow.
Uh, so yeah, they've been a very supportive influence. Um, some of my good friends back home have always been supportive,
Mhm.
but truly nobody was confident. You
Yeah.
know, they wanted to believe, they were hopeful, but not confident, and that kind of hurt. I don't
Yeah.
blame them. I mean, I wouldn't have been confident either with, I'm not going to say I have a bad track record, but
Yeah.
I've always said I was going to start a business, always said I was going to do grand things, and it had never happened yet.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
was like,
This is
oh,
your
he's finally trying. We'll
your,
see
like
if that works.
first piece of like evidence for you.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
now the reputation's there. Everybody's like, so what's next? You're going to get into landscaping? You're going to get into that? And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. So,
And was that did that did the people not believing in you and that self-doubt that you had, like I said I was going to do these great things and I never really had. Maybe this is just another time. Was that ever something that motivated you that like when you were, because especially when you're saying that I was sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night and things like that, it's, and you even said that like money wasn't always the motivating factor. There's always something that gets a man ticking. What was that for you and during those initial days?
yeah, some of it was definitely spite.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend now, she
Uh-huh.
was my girlfriend right when I was starting the business,
Yeah.
was telling me, I can't believe you're spending money on these chemicals to clean cars. It's never going to be anything. You're never going to do anything. I was like, oh, okay. Her parents were telling me, like, "Oh, that's such a stupid thing to be spending time and money on. And, like, that's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so for those first probably 2 years, it was entirely spite. I wanted her to see every single Facebook post, every single Instagram post.
Yeah.
I wanted her to see the come up, see what she was missing out on. And uh then I met my wife, current wife, girlfriend then, and
Yeah.
then everything was, it's,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna make everything you've ever wanted. Like I need to succeed so that we can have financial freedom, so that I can be there for my kids when we have kids. I'm
Hmm.
not constantly managing a business. I can afford to do the nice things for my kids and my family. And that's been the driving factor ever since.
Hmm.
Uh, and then some of it's also just like I want to be able to walk into a room and be like, yeah, I own a business. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I want to have, a nice watch, a nice car, and just people know, like I want to have that reputation that precedes me.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think I definitely resonate with like the whole you start off with like a spite or a hatred towards
Yeah,
something and then eventually it comes out of love where it's like
right.
I like helping these people. I want my family and all of them to be happy and that's why I'll continue doing this. Was there
Exactly.
also any like love for like just like cars in general that you ever had or
Yeah, so when I had my Camry, I didn't really give two craps about cars. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. It's kind of hard to at that point.
it's hard to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was driving my grandma's old baby blue 2007 Camry, and it exploded one day while I was driving down
What?
Chauncey.
Like
You
literally
know how it
what?
has like the older Camrys have kind of a manual style automatic shifter where
Yeah.
it like goes side by side and it's gated.
Yeah, yeah.
I had been going down, I saw a Mustang right behind me, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna race him downhill in my Camry. I put it into first gear, put my foot on the gas,
Yeah.
went down the hill, piston through the roof.
Oh shit.
Yeah, or
Okay.
through the hood, I should say.
Yeah.
And so it exploded, and I was like, oh, darn. And then had to go buy a new car.
Yeah.
Found the Mazda. The Mazda was fun. It was small, sporty, a little bit
Hmm.
more horsepower, and a little bit more luxury. And I was like, I like this. I should start getting into cars.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends back home, his name is Sam, he had just bought a Golf R, which is
Hmm.
like, really fast little hot hatch.
Yeah.
And he took me for a ride in that, and I was like, I need a fast car, no matter what. In the future, I need the nicest, fastest car. I
Yeah.
want to know everything there is to know about cars. So I really started getting into it then. You get on that side of TikTok or Instagram, and it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
all that you see. Um, and that was sort of when I got into it. And then I was like seeing these nice cars, and I was like, one day I'm going to detail one of those, or one day I'm going to own one of those.
Hmm.
Um, And now I'm sort of living that out. I've gotten to detail some very nice cars, whether they're from Nishant or other people in car clubs or even just random clients. Like we did two McLarens last week.
Wow.
That ton of fun, and now I'm pretty decent friends with the guys who own them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "When are you gonna get one?" And I'm like, "Soon, I
Kind
have to." So I definitely got into the car culture right before I started the business, and it's just skyrocketed
of
from
seems
there.
like a passion that built up as you continued the business.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that you mentioned at the end, how you like meeting these guys that own the McLarens and stuff like that, and like guys like Nishant. And how have how have you built up those sorts of connections, and how have they helped you aside from like your personal connections that you had beforehand with your wife and like some of your family members? Like who are the people that you've met throughout the process, or now as you're starting to detail nicer cars that those connections have become invaluable?
Um, I've met a lot of people who are either connected relatively highly with Purdue
Uh-huh.
or some other small business owners who have
Okay.
said, "Hey, I recognize your hustle, great small business. I also want to be able to give something back to my employees." Or I've met some of the coaches who want to give things back to their teams, and they're like, "Hey, let's get everybody on the team or all of our employees' cars detailed." And then each one of those people goes and writes a good review.
Hmm.
Everybody's happy. Some of them become repeat clients. Um, those are the main connections that are like massive.
Yeah.
They bring in a ton of business. Monetarily, they're great. But then there's other connections with people like I know the guy who owns Caropolis over, I don't think it's off Main Street, but it's in Lafayette. He recommends virtually all of his clients to us,
Wow.
even though he doesn't really get a ton of cars done.
Yeah.
Like he's seen maybe one or two of the cars and been like, yeah, that's fantastic. Recommends everybody to us. And
That's
I
sick.
recommend everybody to him.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing with like Ezekiel, who's right next to us. They do window tinting. Do the same thing with Top Notch PDR. They do paintless dent repair. And it's actually one of the struggles that I'm finding as we're scaling is
Hmm.
I've built up these friends who offer other automotive services
Yeah.
that I want to move into doing.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I don't want to be squashing or
Like step over some
squandering their
toes.
business,
Yeah.
but they're all comfortable where they're at. They're not trying to scale up.
Yeah.
They've been in the industry for several years, if not decades. They don't want the struggle of training employees, managing at that level, but we do. I do.
Hmm.
I want to be as big as we can be.
Hmm.
So I am going to end up stepping on toes. It is going to probably, take some of their business away, like we did to Premier. um, but yeah, like we're coming for them. I don't want to be, but we have to be. It's the only way to survive in this kind of industry. It's the only way to grow.
And I think on that point, one with your growth and how you're doing now, what's the plan for gray market detailing? Where do you want to be in a bigger shop in like the Lafayette, West Lafayette area? Do you want to be like what basically what would you like the business to look like in 5 years?
Um, in 5 years, the goal is to have a much larger shop here. Like I
Mhm.
basically want to build a mini Graham Ray Hall, if you know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
been to their location.
yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
So we want to be, that big shop with the fancy lights, the nice lounge, all that stuff
Yeah.
here. And then I'm hoping to move out to the Carmel/Fishers area and start mainly mobile stuff out there because there's only like one or two small businesses out there that do mobile detailing.
Hmm.
And in those higher income communities, it's a very nice thing for them to have.
Yeah.
They like
Yeah.
that convenience of it being done at their house, at their home. So the goal is big shop here, maybe like five or six cars. Uh, I want to start a second location out there. And then I want to start building a detailer on demand style app, kind of like DoorDash or Grubhub, where we have a nationwide list of contractors
Hmm.
and we do all of the marketing and advertising. They just get certified or send us some videos of work or results that they've done, but they're on contract. So you get on your phone, you're like, I need a detail. Let's go to, oh, what's this? Gray Market Detailing, and it'll be somewhere like Florida.
Hmm.
You order a detail, we have our packages listed out,
Hmm.
and then We find a local detailer who we have under contract and they go do it.
And is
So
that like an existing like business model?
I think there's some other companies that try to do something similar,
Yeah.
but they don't have the paperwork laid out quite as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get a proprietary app going that will actually do all of that, system to handle the training and making sure that the vehicles get done fully. Uh, but yeah, I think we'll probably be the first ones, and I'm confident we'll be the best ones.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. No, that sounds like a very interesting, like just like path to growth. Because normally asking someone who has a local shop, they're usually saying like, okay, I, yeah, I think we just want to open another bigger one in West Lafayette, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. But this whole full-fledged plan of like, okay, let's take this national and let's start getting contract shops, and then actually like starting to detail people that are 3,000 miles away, but we have people to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, it definitely sounds like something that'll also take a lot of upfront infrastructure, but
Well, we have investors.
yeah,
I've done first and second round investing, so
okay,
we have the money there.
yeah,
It's just a matter of finding professionals who can build that kind of system for me,
hmm,
and I'll probably end up making them at least partial partners in the business. But um, right now the real struggle is finding the people that are going to make this happen,
yeah,
because I have the idea, I have a lot of the expertise, but not all of it. Computer engineering and cybersecurity will only take you so far.
yeah.
There's people that have been doing marketing their whole life. There's people that have been doing training their whole life, and that's what we really need to find, is someone to integrate that part of it into the system.
And last thing, I mean, being a college student that went and started this, and now it's as big as it is now. What is some advice that you have for a Purdue student that, or some college student that's watching this, saying, I want to go and start my own thing, or I've also seen a problem with the automotive space or the education space, and I want to go fix it. What would be your few pieces of wisdom to them?
Got it. 5 things. First of all, pay your taxes. The government is a game. If you don't pay, you'll lose. You will lose everything. Second of all, structure everything properly. It's really easy to get an LLC. It's like $100. Go get one filed, get some insurance. If you don't have money for insurance up front, just don't take as many risks and then get insurance later. Uh, Third of all, find people who are passionate about what you're doing. If you're passionate about it, you can guarantee somebody else is. If you can build up a community of those people, you can get anything done. Fourth thing would be start today. The best time to start a business was 20 years ago. Even better would have been yesterday. You can start right now. Waiting until tomorrow, waiting until the perfect time, there isn't one. I happened to get lucky with things happening during COVID, but that was because that was when I saw the problem that arose. If you're seeing the problem now, I can guarantee you somebody else across the world is seeing it too, and they're going to beat you to it if you don't get started. And then the fifth thing would really be just, keep your nose clean, have a good reputation, do good work, be passionate about what you want to do, and don't be afraid to listen to other people's advice, but also don't be afraid to tell them no. There's so many people who have tried to give me advice in the past and they just didn't know what they were talking about, or it wasn't applicable anymore. Like somebody who started detailing 20 years ago has virtually nothing to tell me unless they can critique my form in person. And even then, it's like I'm still doing just fine. Don't be afraid to tell people no, but don't be afraid to take constructive criticism.
Thank you so much, Gray. I think it's really great having you. A lot of great stories and a lot of great pieces of advice as well. And
Of course, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
see you guys next week. Thank you guys for tuning in.